Hey guys, it's Jambros. I'm back for my third video today, and my Phase 3 and Phase 4 loot guide for physical DPS series. Today we'll be doing Ret Paladin. Hopefully I'll be able to give you a good idea of what's good or not good for Ret Paladin, for either you, what you might be aiming for, or any loot council guilds, and where to prioritize certain items. Let's get started with like the different sims, parameters, and methodology I used. I ended up using Barenor's spreadsheet for Paladin. There were a few other options here that I could have used, but one in particular was undervaluing expertise, and the other one was incorrectly valuing hit. This is the best I could find to really get what I wanted. I'm going to be using a human Paladin. All the fights are going to be 180-second duration, just like I'm going to be used for the rest of all the other classes. 7700 armor, level 73, humanoid boss, and the whole thing is purely single target. All appropriate raid buffs, party buffs, and raid debuffs are included. These are the groups down here. It'll be in group 1 with the Feral, Fury, Combat, and Enhancement Shaman. This sim or comparison will compare the top 3 items of the tier per slot, with some exceptions for rings and trinket combinations, which will be up to about 5. And it uses complete gear sets and doesn't just sim individual items. For example, especially for Ret Paladin, we're kind of going to be building around their hit cap, which is only 3%, because most guilds will be carrying a boomkin with them. The tier 5 BIS is used to simulate the opening of Mount Hyjal and Black Temple, and what would be the largest upgrades right off the bat. It'll be using epic gems in the new gear, but rare gems in all the old gear, since epic gems were not available yet in Phase 2. And tier 6 BIS is used to simulate the end of the tier, and how much of an upgrade or downgrade certain items would be in a final gear set. And epic gems will be used without exception there. These are the talents, varied, standard spec. You really only have 1 or 2 points to play with, and none of them will really significantly affect your DPS. This is the tier 5 BIS. It is all off pieces. None of them are going to be using the set bonuses, even though the tier 5 chest is there, because it's really the only good piece in tier 5. That will be the same case with tier 6, because these are going to be all off pieces as well. There is a potential way that you could use the 2-piece tier 6 in this set, but I'll get to that when we get to the certain slots where you would use it. Alright, getting started, we'll start with the helmet slot. Previously, you had been using the engineering goggles. Most Ret Paladins probably went engineering. It's probably the biggest DPS increase for profession you can have. But even if you didn't, there's still 3 good options here to upgrade to. Far and away, the best is going to be Cursed Vision, just like it's best for pretty much every physical DPS class. But the other 2 are significantly behind, but they're still upgrades. It's a little deceiving, actually. In full tier 6 BIS, Force Prowlers pulls ahead a little bit of Illidari Shatterer. However, it requires the Choker of Endless Nightmares. We're operating around a 3% hit cap, and even with the hit on Endless Nightmares, it's still technically BIS. Even if all of that hit rating is wasted, it's still ahead of your other options, although only by, granted, 1 or 2 DPS. However, actually having the Choker of Endless Nightmares opens up a lot of other gearing options for you, so you never really go under that hit cap. Just like in tier 6 BIS, they're all right around the same. Serrated Blades is pretty equal to it, but that's with all of that hit rating wasted. If you need that hit rating, it opens up many more options. In the shoulder slot, you were previously wearing shoulder pads as a stranger, and still BIS. Technically, Swift Strike, if you replace it 1-to-1 in full tier 5 BIS, it's a few DPS upgrade, but that requires leatherworking, and those things are bind down pickup and are not going to be BIS in your full tier 6. Going on to the cloak, you were using Razor Scale, you have two other options here, but they're both Phase 4 options. So going through Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, you'll still be wearing this cloak. However, Cloak of Fiends, when it comes out from the first chest in Zul'Aman, is a large upgrade and should be one of the first things you should be going for once Phase 4 releases. Cloak of Darkness is just behind it, so there's not really much of a point in crafting it and spending that gold. You have to buy that epic gem for it. It's not particularly worth it. The blue slot is worth something to activate a meta gem, but in a full setup, you're not really going to need it. Moving on to the chest piece slot, you will be replacing the tier 5 that you were previously wearing to a couple options. You have the Midnight Chest Guard of Archimonde, or you can choose to pick tier 6. If you do want to get the 2-piece, this is probably one of the slots you should do it. They're pretty close with only like 1 or 2 DPS difference between them. In full tier 6 BIS, to use the tier piece, you're going to want to have Choker of Endless Nightmares again. That makes up for the missing hit. The hit on the chest guard, the Midnight Chest Guard, is 8 higher, and you're going to want that 8 to really make it worth it. They sim about even between tier 6 and the Archimonde Breastplate. However, you'll want to use another tier 6 piece, and it will be a weaker in comparison to give you that bonus. With the wrists, this is one of the easiest upgrade slots. Bindings of Lightning Reflexes. It's a BOE from Leatherworking and is a pretty major upgrade. It's really easy. It's technically better than Swift Steel, and the shackles from Winter Chill are really not worth it. Reflects that as well in full tier 6 BIS. Swift Steel is a couple DPS behind. Don't even bother. The Bindings of Lightning Reflexes are just better. For the gloves, you were wearing Sear and Grip previously and will continue to do so. Grips of Damnation is pretty close, but isn't as good. I would keep an eye on the Grips of Silent Justice. The Armor Pen is not completely worthless. In a tier 5 and tier 6 setup from full best in slot, it was falling behind. However, if nobody else needs it, I would definitely try to take it, because more Armor Pen starts to show up heading into Phase 5, and at some point may actually be an upgrade for you in your transition to a Phase 5 BIS. Another holdover from last phase, the Belt of 100 Deaths. Nothing even really comes close to this. Shadow Walker's Cord, the Money Belt, they're way behind. You really, really, really want this belt. Nothing just comes close. For the legs, you were using Murderous Intent before, but this is probably your biggest upgraded slot. If you did take the tier 6 chest piece, you'll want to replace this with the legs here. They're not as good as Bow Stitched or Divine Retribution. However, if you're aiming for that 2-piece, this is where you'll take it. Divine Retribution kind of surprised me a little bit about how it stacks up against Bow Stitched, especially in a full tier 6 BIS setup. It technically came out about 2 DPS ahead. What I did find interesting about this setup is that it enables the Choker Serrated Blades, which is the Armor Pen neck, whereas previously Endless Nightmares was BIS. It actually pushes Serrated Blades up a little bit more. The more Armor Pen you have, the more valuable it becomes. This is an interesting setup. Warriors are going to want these legs. Past that, their plate, Armor Pen, nobody else is really going to want them. If you're lucky enough to get a couple drops, I would actually take these just in case. Sim it out yourself. More Armor Pen gear. See how it goes. More of it will come out when Phase 5. You may be able to get some like temporary usage out of these. I think that'd be a good opportunity, a little bit of testing. I'd love to see it. In the boot slot, you were wearing the Cobra Lash boots. You have a couple options here for upgrades. They're both good, large upgrades. Shadow Masters comes out ahead. Dread boots are also good. However, I believe they're also best for warriors. Shadow Masters, however, is also very contested. In full tier 6 bis, they get a little bit closer. Whichever one you're able to get your hands on first would be great. Ideally, you go for Shadow Masters, but they're leather and more classes will want them. In terms of rings, you still have your Shapeshifter's Signet, Lower City Exalted. Expertise is just really highly valued for Ret Paladin. You're also using the Ancestral Ring of Conquest from Phase 2. If you can tell here, you have a few other options. The Rep Ring, Band of Devastation, which drops off trash. Unstoppable Aggressors, which is a Gurtog. Signet of Primal Wrath, which is a Phase 4 ring. They're all come up pretty even with Shapeshifters. They're all plus or minus within 3 DPS. Ancestral Ring is another case. A lot of these are upgrades over that. In full tier 6, here's a nice little chart and all these comparisons, and I was really surprised by how close everything is. The only one that's not, that kind of falls farther behind, is the Band of the Eternal Champion. That is your Mount Hyjal Rep Ring, and all 4 of the other rings are basically interchangeable. They're all plus or minus 2 DPS, which is actually pretty remarkable and was a surprise when I was actually simming these out. Trinkets, your BIS is going to be Dragonspine Trophy, as always. Berserker's Call in Phase 4 actually edges out everything else. So in Phase 3, your best in slot is going to be DST and the new Dark Moon card. Phase 4, you can replace that Dark Moon card with Berserker's Call. Past that, your best in slot is going to be Bloodlust Brooch, which I'm sure you already have from badges, which is available immediately in Phase 1. Hopefully you have enough gold to buy those Dark Moon cards to hold you over until ZA comes out. Your range slot is the exact same. It will be for all of TBC. You'll never replace this. Alright, and your weapon. You can replace that Twin Blade. They're all big upgrades here. The Season 3 Arena Sword is an upgrade, but nowhere near as much as the other two. Cataclysm's Edge and Torch of the Damned. Torch of the Damned comes out ahead. It is literally made for Ret Paladin. Nobody else will want it. You're the only one. This is what you should be picking up. Cataclysm's Edge is best in slot for Arms Warriors. The Armor Pen is of some use, especially if you took those other Armor Pen items, but definitely give it to Arms Warriors first. But it could be fun to play with. But even in a best case scenario, it's going to pull equal with Torch of the Damned. But even then, I think it'll still run a little bit behind. Yeah, it'll still be under 10 DPS, but you can maybe get it to 5 or equal at best. All right, and a little bit of a summary. There's not a whole lot of useless items here for Ret Paladins. The shoulders, which are leatherworking, which you're probably not anyways. The grips, which are in demand for other classes. The rep ring. The belts, these could be useful, but only if you don't have that 100 deaths belt. You really want that. These are good upgrades if your BIS is not available yet. There's a lot of different interchangeable items with Ret Paladin. Makes it a lot of fun for gearing them, definitely. Serrated Blades I'd like to pick up. The Forest Prowler's Helm, which is not a heavy usage item, which is good if you can't get Cursed Vision. Divine Retribution, Dread Boots, all these rings, definitely the Dark Moon card, if you got that spare gold. And then your highest priority items. Cursed Vision, of course. Choker of Endless Nightmares I did put on here, even if it's only like a 1 or 2 DPS increase, it just enables so many different gear sets with that hit on it. The Bracers are a must get as soon as BT and Hyjal are released. The legs are probably your biggest individual upgrade, either Bow Stitched or Divine Retribution. Well, I take that back. Biggest individual upgrade that's not Torch of the Damned. That's going to be a massive increase in DPS, and is really what the biggest item that you're aiming for throughout Phase 3 and Phase 4. And that's it. Thanks guys for watching. This is a lot of fun to make. I really enjoy like the different gearing sets I did for simming, the different spreadsheets for working with Ret Paladins. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Watch me on Twitch. I'm usually playing my rogue. You can tell me how great I'm playing, how bad I'm playing. You can wish me luck or not for getting Warglaves. Anyways, thanks guys. Appreciate it and see you around.